of my life. Oh, the best day of my life. Today will be the best day of my life. Hallelujah. The best day. I get my joy back. Yeah. I get my heart back. I get my life back. Yeah. Today will be. I believe it tonight. Come on in the building. I feel it. Hallelujah. Today will be the best day of my life. Oh, yes, it will. Best day of my life. Today will be the best day of my life. Oh, yes, it will. Oh, yeah. The best day. I get my joy back. Yes, I will. I get my heart back.
Welcome to Inspirational Deliverance Center, Church of God in Christ, Women's Department, Live Your Best Life at Home, Part 2, where we're focusing on managing your money. We have an exciting lineup for you today that will discuss ways to live your best life while sheltered in at home. Certainly, we begin by thanking and honoring our beloved pastor, Pastor Shirley Hughes, and our outstanding media team for making this event possible. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for your loving kindness and your tender mercy. We thank you, oh God, because you have been so good to us and you have allowed us to see another day. We ask that you would look on us this morning and bless our time together. Bless those, our presenters. Bless, Lord, our viewing audience and everyone so that we will be able to live a better life by managing our money well. Look on us and bless us and keep us today is my prayer. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Good morning. Our scripture reading, Deuteronomy 8:18. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware by thy fathers, as it is this day. And the word of the Lord is blessed.
Good morning again. If you're just tuning in, this is Inspirational Deliverance Center, Church of God in Christ, Women's Department, Live Your Best Life at Home, Part 2. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we've been home since mid-March. We're starting to get out a little bit more now, but we're still in a pandemic. During that time, some people have been furloughed or even have lost their jobs, while others have needed to financially assist family members and others. For many, life is totally different, and some areas of our lives will just never be the same. We've had to adjust to a new normal. Many people have been impacted by our current condition. With seemingly limited funds and increasing costs of groceries, goods, and other services, what decisions do we make regarding our money? Today, our presenters will help us live our best life at home with a focus on managing our money. There are many biblical principles regarding money, and one that I can absolutely affirm is that paying your tithes, which is 10% of your earnings, will bring you great benefits. When we worship God through our giving and our serving, he absolutely opens up the windows of heaven and he pours us out blessings that we have room enough to receive. I said we do have room to receive. Amen. In order to freely give, we must know how to manage the financial resources that we have. We've invited some amazing, extraordinary individuals to help us make more prudent decisions regarding our finances as we are living our best life at home. While both presenters are educationally and experientially prepared to speak to us on this topic this morning, I want you to know both of them are ministers of the gospel as well. Mrs. Gwendolyn Kirkland, an associate pastor at Covenant United Church of Christ, will speak to us concerning financial planning strategies to help us navigate during the COVID crisis. She will address the government's response, investing, and other related matters. Elder David Sanders, an associate minister at Inspirational Deliverance Center, will talk to us about our considerations for taxes, improving our credit, and becoming debt-free. Listen, you don't want to miss the entire event today. Following both presenters, we will have a live panel discussion. We're going to encourage you to put your questions right in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. You can also send those questions to Sister Cherie Ball or Nicole Wakes. And we're ready to just have a great time and learn today. I encourage you to get your pen and your pad because I guarantee you are going to want to take notes for today. Live your best life at home, managing your money. Let's get started. We're going to hear from our first panelist, Mrs. Gwendolyn Kirkland. Gwendolyn is a certified financial planner and general securities principal and is the former managing principal of Kirkland, Turnbow and Associates. Currently, Gwendolyn is transitioning. She's getting ready to retire, everybody. But so she's a financial planner with EAW Wealth and Retirement Planning, LLC. I got to tell you about this amazing lady. A native Chicagoan, Gwendolyn received her Bachelor's of Science degree from Bradley University in Peoria and a Master's of Education degree from DePaul University. Gwendolyn has been in the securities industry since 1983 after having spent almost 10 years in education. In July 1993, she was authorized by the International Board of Standards and Practices for Certified Financial Planners Incorporated to use the marks CFP with that little trademark at the top, and Certified Financial Planner in accordance with the IBCFP Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice and Disciplinary Procedures. Tell somebody she's a heavyweight. In March 2001, the Oprah Show contacted Gwendolyn, and one of her clients was included on the segment featuring ordinary people with extraordinary wealth. Also in March of 2001, Gwendolyn was taped for 2 segments of Right on the Money that were aired on PBS. In 2011, Gwendolyn gave an opinion on the debt crisis on the NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams. Gwendolyn was a frequent guest on Stock Picker on WBBM 780 AM's Noon Business Hour. She is listed in Who's Who Among African Americans. Gwendolyn is the recipient of numerous awards and recognitions and has certifications in the financial planning process, risk management, investments, tax planning and management, retirement and employee benefits, and estate planning. Gwendolyn has a wealth of knowledge, and she's always willing to share her expertise. With a focus on financial strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic, please receive and welcome our very special guest speaker, Mrs. Gwendolyn Kirkland.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It is so good to be with you, Inspirational Deliverance family. I want to thank Pastor Hughes, Missionary Sanders for this kind invitation and for the bio that Missionary Sanders gave you some excerpts from. My statement is, to God be the glory for the things he has done. I am so excited to share with you this morning. I have some information to share with you. So today we're going to talk about a timely subject, investing in the time of COVID-19 and how you can navigate this current crisis. Are you with me? All right. And as missionary Sanders said, we are going to, that was a lovely family. So that lets you know that we're investing for the family and all that we do. But as we are moving on, we're going to be looking at managing finances through the crisis, which is our next slide. Let's see, okay, thank you. We're going to be looking at these areas: the government response and legislative changes, investing in an uncertain market, because indeed those are considerations you may have, and then some strategies for this current environment that we have. So what came first? First came relief for individuals. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, or what you're hearing by CARES. That's the acronym for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act. First, for paying taxes and making your contribution to taxes, you have until July 15th, 2020. So you have about 4 weeks left. But there was a benefit that you did not have to pay in April or even file. But now you can have that, use that extension that was put in place by the CARES Act that takes you out to July 20th. Now you need to check with David, who's coming on after I am, who can tell you exactly what's going on with the state and the local tax extensions. Then there was the expanded unemployment insurance. So for workers not usually eligible, it was a $600 increase for up to 4 months, and that's going to end about the end of July. And usually you would think of those that are employed, but now you can also look at the self-employed, independent contractors, those with limited work history, because with the CARES Act, it was a consideration if you were affected and your work was affected by COVID-19, you could apply for unemployment and get that $600 a week bump up. Student loans. If you have federal student loans, that payment and even interest that you're charged, that was suspended through September 30th, 2020 with no penalty. So that's been a blessing for many if you're looking at your budget and trying to get your budget in order. Then when you think about it as well, with the student loan repayment benefit that came up, under the provision, an employer can contribute up to $5,250 annually toward an employee's student loan. And that would not be considered part of the employee's income. But David can tell you more about that. And that was a $5,250 cap that was placed on it. And I know as tithers and part of a tithing community, you are pleased to know that the CARES Act, it encourages people to give and to contribute to churches and charitable organizations. So even if you do not itemize, you can give up to $300 of cash contributions. And then the limitation, there was a 60% adjusted gross income limitation for individuals on what you could give for charitable contributions. That has been removed with the CARES Act. So it encourages you to give more. So it's no limit now to what you can give. And so we're grateful for that. We are very grateful. There's some other relief I'd like to share with you for individuals. The withdrawals and loans from your retirement plan. So if you have been diagnosed with COVID-19, your spouse or dependent is diagnosed with COVID-19, or you experience some adverse financial consequences as a result of being quarantined, furloughed, laid off, having work hours reduced, being unable to work due to lack of childcare due to COVID-19, you are closing or reducing hours of your business that you own or operate. by an individual due to COVID-19, you can have the benefit of taking funds, even if you are not 59 and a half, you can take funds out of your retirement plan up to $100,000 with no 10% penalty. You would have to pay taxes on the distribution, and those taxes can be paid over a 3-year period. And as situations change and you have gainful employment again and funds are moving in, you can repay those funds that you took out. And you can pay them back over a 3-year period. And again, I think David might speak more to this, because to my understanding, you may even have to file an amended tax return to try and recover the taxes that you paid. But I will put a caveat on this to be very, very prudent, very careful. If you're thinking about taking money from your retirement plan, that might be one of your last alternatives, because that can affect you for years to come. And then if you were rolling money over, having a distribution, it doesn't have the mandatory 20% withholding with the CARES Act. And if you have a 401k from your employer, you would be able to take out funds from that 401k. Instead of 50,000, you'd be able to take up to 100,000. And then for our seniors, you can see there was relief for the seniors that was part of the CARES Act. If you are 72 or over, because the law changed in January. Initially, if you turned 70 and a half, you had to start taking money out of your retirement accounts, your IRAs, your pension plan, defined contribution plans like a 401k you had from an employer, or any qualified beneficiary accounts that you had. But in January, that law changed to give you grace to age 72. Now you don't have to take out required minimum distributions until age 72, but in 2020, you don't have to take required minimum distribution at all. It's waived in 2020. So if you're in a position where you have funds in an IRA, you're 72 and you would have to start taking money out, or you have been taking money out for years because you turned 70 and a half when that was the law, now you do not have to take out the required minimum distribution in 2020. So there's some relief there. There's some other relief. And I think someone had even asked about this. The recovery rebate for individual taxpayers. It's a rebate of up to $1,200 per individual taxpayer, $2,400 for married couples filing jointly, and taxpayers with children, an additional $500 per child. The consideration is, though, income. You have to qualify based on income. And I think our next chart gives you some detailed information about that. So for a single taxpayer, the rebate would phase out after your income comes to $75,000, and $150,000 for joint filers. It is a scale where it starts to phase out. Then it's completely phased out with your income. If as a single person, your income is $99,000 or higher, and I apologize, it was cut off on this slide, but for joint filers, then it would be $198,000. Then you would not be entitled. And I think one of the previous questions, someone said, hey, where's my stimulus? And I'll speak to that a little later. But what you'd want to do is, I'll speak to it now, as a matter of fact, you want to go to irs.gov /corona /economic impact payments. And that would give you information. So irs.gov /coronavirus /economic impact payments. So if you're wondering, how do I even know if I'm eligible, any information that you'd want to have about this aspect of the CARES Act, you'd be able to find it there. Now, Let's get personal. And I like this aspect of looking at financial planning is ensuring that your current financial house is in order. And it reminds me of the prophet Elisha and what he asked the widow in 2 Kings 4. What do you have in your house? So first, before you panic with all that's going on, you need to do an inventory. Do an inventory of your assets. What do you have, including real estate? Gather your statements for any savings accounts, CDs you have, brokerage accounts, your retirement plans. Maybe you've changed employers and you've worked at more than one place and you're like, oh, I forgot I might have some other money at that former employer. Your IRAs, your annuities, your 529s, if you have those for your children, your stock options. And you want to make sure that you list, and I know it's not just for the ladies, it's for our brothers and our sisters. Maybe you have some side money, that you have some money you just put aside and nobody knows about it. It needs to be written down. That's why we have iCash with the state of Illinois, unclaimed assets, because sometimes people pass away and no one even knew they had those accounts. So you need to write those things down. Then do an inventory of your liabilities. Who do you owe? Prepare a list of your debt balances, your credit card statements, auto loan statements, mortgage statements, home equity loan, student loans, credit cards. You might be able to call some of your credit card holder companies and ask for a lower interest rate. If you're having a problem and you're not able to pay your expenses with the credit card, ask if you can pay the minimum. Ask if you can have grace. Sometimes it comes down to you have not because you ask not. Let them know if things are going on and you need some help. Speak up. Speak up. It's not time to have pride. It's time to let people know what's going on with you. Then determine what is your current situation with regard to your income. Include your salary, your bonuses. If you have any self-employment income, you have Social Security income, pension income, alimony payments. And then I feel here, when you're looking at your income, your financial needs, and your retirement goals. But I feel like, what can you do? I have a dear friend in the midst of this. She's a seamstress. She's making masks and selling masks online, and she's creating some income for herself. Maybe we have Instacart. Maybe it's a consideration. You work with Instacart where you buy groceries for people. You have their list. You are given their list electronically. Go to the store, buy groceries, and deliver them. Maybe you can prepare food. Maybe you can do landscaping. I mean, think, be creative. If you're saying, well, I need some extra money in these times, think about, what do you have in your house? What's your skill set? What can you do? Then update or develop a written financial plan. It's not enough to say, well, I want to retire one day. When do you want to retire? How much money are you going to need per month? And then when you're looking at your current budget now, I'm a witness, you can live without cable. So if you're trying to reduce expenses, look at some things that are discretionary, that you don't have to have, and that can help free up some money in your budget. Then go through your house. Maybe there's some things you can sell. Maybe some things that you can trade for something. I think that not only getting your financial house in order, get your physical house in order. Many people now are taking the time to declutter and get rid of things and find out, hey, I don't really need this. I can donate it. I can sell it, consignment store or some other things online that you can use. And then periodically monitor how your plan is working. Get your tax returns. Make sure that you have your tax returns. Locate your estate planning documents. Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Do you have a power of attorney? And you would want to have at the minimum, a power of attorney for healthcare, a power of attorney for property. If you go in the hospital And now, we can't even have visitation in the hospital. What are your wishes as far as care is concerned? Do you want to be on a ventilator? Do you want to be kept alive by any means necessary? What are your wishes? It should be written, it should be validated, and have an attorney to do something. So I think that would be beneficial. Then in this period of time, while you're at home, can you invest some time to get a new certification or get a new skill set so that you can improve your marketability as an employment? There are over 10 Ivy League colleges, Yale, Princeton, Harvard, that are offering online classes at no cost. You can go to the library online at no cost. So there's some things that you can do. It doesn't have to be, oh, woe is me. It's get up, pick up your bed and walk, make some decisions to go forward and use what I'm considering this divine pause. And part of my prayer, I ask God, don't let me miss it. Don't let me miss the lessons and the blessings that you have for me during this period of time. And I pray that that's your prayer too. So open yourself up to the newness. Open yourself up to the change. Life is change. So let's look at it from a positive standpoint. God is a keeper, and God is keeping us in the midst of this. And I think in some instances, as you look around your house, you'll feel like you're living in the overflow. You have things you didn't even know you had. And now you have the time, because you're not going hither and yon. Now you have the time to even look and see what you have and do an inventory with these things. So you can determine your living expenses and reduce your living expenses if need be, and develop a plan. I think Elder Davis is going to talk about that. Develop a plan to get out of debt. Debt is a 4-letter word, and debt is bondage. So you don't want to, as they say, carry a balance. That's why they use the term carry a balance on your credit card. You don't want to keep carrying debt. And then I always say, why do you think they call it MasterCard? And you don't want that to be your master. You know who your master is. And it's not a little plastic card that gets you in trouble if you're flipping it out too much or inserting it too much. So there's some things that we can do during this period of time to ensure that our financial house is in order. Then beyond that, we want to ensure our legacy plan is in order. Number one, we want to consider who should inherit your assets. Who? Think about that. Is it you're thinking your spouse, you're thinking children, you're thinking the church? Who should inherit your assets? If you have minor children or a family member that has special needs, you might need a guardian for them. So that's a key decision that you don't want to leave to the courts and say, well, I'll just leave this money to my child who's 8 years old. No, because they can't inherit it. So it has to be set up in a guardianship or a special needs trust so that they would be able to receive those funds for their benefit. And going on, if you become disabled or incapacitated, who do you want to take care of you and make decisions for you? Will you have enough income if you're unable to work? So you think about disability insurance. You think about long-term care insurance. Disability insurance comes into play if you are employed and you're not able to work. It would be a policy that would help provide funds to pay for your ongoing expenses. Long-term care insurance is insurance that you look at if you have a catastrophic illness and you are not going to be recovering for some period of time. Maybe you have a stroke, you have some type of accident, and you need some funds to pay for someone to come into your home to assist, or if you're going to be in a care facility. And as one of my clients says, long-term care can kind of ensure whether if you're in a care facility, you have a fluffy pillow or you have a flat pillow. So if you have the long-term care insurance, it can provide some of that. Then who should make healthcare and financial decisions if you become incapacitated? So that would be a power of attorney for healthcare. And many times you would, if you have a hospitalization, they ask, do you have a living will? Or do you have a power of attorney for healthcare? Who should we contact if something happens and you're not able to speak for yourself? And then going back to where we started, who should inherit your assets? You could have a guardianship for your child, and you could have a guardianship of person, and you should have could have a guardianship of property. The difference is you might say, well, my cousin or my sister and brother, they would be appropriate to raise my child or raise my children. They would give them the same Christian values that I have, but they are not good with money. So they might be guardianship of person. Then you could have a guardian of property. You might say, Uncle Zeke, he can't take children. He would not be the one to be patient, to be caring, to be going on with little Elmer or little Ed. Oh no, that's not going to be Uncle Zeke's not the one, but Uncle Zeke is good with money. So he could be guardian of the child's property to help make the financial decisions. But you would want to consult with an attorney about that. So that's beyond my level of expertise. I certainly can help you recognize the need for and encourage you to go and address these and then give you kudos when you put it in place. But you would want to consult an attorney to get those in place. Then are your family members capable of managing assets after your death? You might want to think about that. What's their level of expertise? Are they going to just go right through the money, that you're leaving? Are they good stewards? Have they given you any evidence that they are managing their own funds well? So you want to think about some of these things when you're making decisions. When you're leaving money to your children, I've seen attorneys write in what they call the 3 strikes clause. If you say, well, I would want my child to inherit assets, but I'm going to give them 3 chances to get it right. Maybe I'll have them inherit some money at age 21. Give them a chance. Let's see. Let's see how they do with that. So they could get a third. All right. They might get another third at 25 or 26. All right, let's see. Did you get some more sense? Are you grounded at this time? And then maybe 30 or 35. I did have one client who knew his son, and his son had some life challenges. He had money staggered where his son wouldn't really get inheritance till he was 50. As he said, well, I do want to leave him something, but I think he's going to take some time to kind of live through some life issues and get to the point where he would be able to manage it. What if you have a business? That's our next question. What would happen to your family business? Maybe your business is real estate. Maybe you have a building. And have you ever shared the particulars with your family so they know what's going on? Sometimes we're too secretive. We don't let our children know what's going on, and then they don't have the skill set to manage when they inherit something. We have to let them know money just doesn't come from an ATM. You got to put some in there, before, and you have to work and you have to save. You have to use that 10-10-80 as the principle that we use at Covenant. 10%, the first 10% of what comes to you, that's your tithe. The second 10% you save and or invest, and then you live from the 80%. So it's 10-10-80. And then lastly, I spoke to this, who should be guardian for the minor children or family members with special needs. So that you would probably want to, no doubt, consult with an attorney so that indeed you can get some professional input, expertise, and influence on this and have some documents in place so that your family members are indeed protected and it doesn't become a matter for the courts and you're leaving things in disarray. So you want to make sure that you're ensuring, as it says, ensure your legacy plan is in order as you're going forward. And then besides that, we can look at another part of ensuring your legacy plan is in order is life insurance. Is the coverage adequate? If you say, I do have some life insurance, well, what's the purpose of it? Sometimes people say, well, I just want to have it for final expenses. If something happens to me, my family would have some assets to use to pay for those final expenses. But you might say, I want my debts covered. Maybe you still have some debts. You have a mortgage and you don't want to leave your spouse or your family with that. I want to be able to pay that off. So that could be a consideration when you're looking at the amount of coverage. Do you need to replace income? Are you in a 2-income family? So if something happens to you, that's going to be a hardship for your family if that income is not there. Is a policy payable to the correct beneficiary? That's a biggie. And I have had that happen where in an insurance review, someone still had their spouse that they had divorced 20 years earlier was still the beneficiary on their life insurance. They had not updated it. Maybe one of your beneficiaries has passed away. That just happened with one of my clients this past week when we were going over an IRA account. So besides your life insurance, any beneficiary designation that you have, make sure it's up to date. Make sure your POD at the bank, your pay on death at the bank. If you have a brokerage firm, your TOD, that's transfer on death. That would be a consideration. Is there a way to reduce premiums? Check with your life insurance coverage for that. Is there a way to increase the coverage for the same amount? Things have changed. Have you considered a life insurance policy which includes a chronic illness rider? And in summary, understand the available government programs, revisit your financial goals and investment strategies, ensure your financial house is in order, and ensure your legacy plan. And if you have questions and you'd like to call or email, there's the information there, edgar.wright@saswealth.com, or call 708-481-8787. God bless you.
Oh my God, that was so much powerful information. Let me tell you, 10, 10, 80. Put that in your notes, 10, 10, 80. 10% of your money goes to the Lord. We know that's biblical. 10% for savings and live on the 80%. Oh my God. She told us so much that we can take in and improve our lives, live our best life at home during Corona and after Corona. Thank you, Mrs. Kirkland, for those financial strategies and that planning and the information. If we listen and pay attention, we're going to be better people and our finances will be in a better position. I'm telling you, that was just exciting. The people were chatting in on both YouTube and Facebook. They were being blessed by that. Thank you. And everybody, listen, stay tuned. If you're just joining us, welcome to Inspirational Deliverance Center, Church of God in Christ, Women's Department, Live Your Best Life at Home, Part 2, Managing Your Money. We just heard from Mrs. Gwendolyn Kirkland, who is a certified financial planner with a number of years of experience in financial planning and supporting people financially. And now we're going to hear from our next presenter, someone whom I happen to know quite well. Our next presenter is Elder David Sanders. Elder Sanders has a bachelor's degree in finance from DePaul University and a master's degree in educational administration from Concordia University. And currently he is a doctoral candidate in educational leadership from Concordia University. He is the proud president of Malcolm X College in Chicago, Illinois, and was responsible for managing the $250 million construction of its campus. Additionally, Elder Sanders serves as the assistant financial secretary of the more than 6 million member Church of God in Christ Incorporated. In this role, he manages the office of the financial secretary, and he is responsible for receiving, counting, receipting, securing, and reporting its revenue. with a focus on taxes, credit, and debt, please receive our next presenter, Elder David Sanders.
Thank you, Missionary Sanders. Certainly, I appreciate that introduction. And to the greatest pastor anywhere in the world, Pastor Shirley Ann Hughes, thank you for this opportunity. We certainly want to talk to you about living your best life at home. Our women's department is doing a fantastic job, and we certainly appreciate you. I'm going to get right to it. Again, I want to thank our pastor, and I want to thank Gwendolyn Kirkland for a wonderful presentation. Want to let you know that you're going to hear some of the same things because foundational elements of wealth and success are the same. They're going to, we have to drill that into you so that you have it and you understand all of the things that you're going to need to do in order to reach the financial plateau that God wants you to reach. So let's get right to it. You take me to the first slide. I'm going to talk about 3 different things today. The first one is going to be how to make taxes work for you. The second one after that is going to be seek to be debt free. And then the last one is going to be for you to improve your credit score. Those are the 3 things that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start with taxes. And each of these presentations, you're going to see we have an axiom that's there that is going to help you. And it says the thing that God endorses are a blessing to you. So when you think about that, anything that God endorses, anything that God is going to bring a financial benefit to you. And so as we walk through that, this will be a way for you to remember some of those things. So as we talk about our taxes, what are some of the best tax brackets that you can have? Married filing jointly and head of household. Well, how does that relate to God? Well, God, as you know, ordained marriage. He set marriage. And so that is a wonderful thing. But many times when people get together, they are in their past viewpoints about taxes. I got a refund and I want to keep getting that refund. And now I'm married. So they will file married filing separately. And that really diffuses the tax benefit of married filing jointly. Even if your partner has an issue, there is still a tax benefit for you married filing jointly that you will not get if you file separately. And we can still separate, it's called injured spouse. We can separate their issues from you, and you will get more of a refund if you're getting a refund than you would have gotten if you go married filing separately, which reduces your tax benefits. All right. So those are just one of the ways that you want to make sure if you are married, you want to file married filing jointly. And again, we can work through any of the other issues. The other thing that the Bible tells us to do is to take care of the widow and the women who have no support. Those are the things that we're supposed to do in the Bible. So in your taxes, head of household is a tremendous tax benefit because it allows you to benefit from the fact that if you have children, which is one of the requirements of being a head of household, that you can take advantage of a lower tax bracket. So again, it's those principles that God endorses that is going to provide a benefit to you. And that is really critical for you to know. Now, some of the best deductions that you're going to get on your taxes, and these are things that you should be aware of and you should know as you're going into your tax advisor, because these are things that you need to be bringing to them. Remember that most tax advisors go off of what you tell them. If you don't give them the information, many of them will not delve into your personal finances and personal history because they are going to respect you. So you have to bring some information to the table so that they will know what it is that you are working with, so they can embed that into your tax preparation. So children provide you a tremendous benefit. And of course, we know that the Bible says that children are a gift from God. So they provide you a benefit with a child tax credit. It can be a lower tax rate. that you can get from having children on your tax return. And if you are in the lower income range, you could benefit from earned income credit. So that's basically where the government is saying you didn't make enough money and you are below the poverty rate. And so because of that, we're going to give you money, right? We're going to give you money in order for you to be able to keep. I'm seeing some of the messages coming through. They're going to give you money in order for you to live. So the government does that with earned income credit. The other thing is home ownership. All right. So home ownership is not something that the Bible directly talks about, but a home ownership is a part of stewardship, right? So it's better for you to own than for you to rent and give that money to somebody where you're not going to get a return benefit on those funds. So if you pay $1,200 a month to rent a place, you are paid that to somebody else who's paying the mortgage on that place, right? You have no ownership rights in that place, and you are dependent on them to make any changes, for them to renew your lease, for them to provide you with what you might need in order for you to live comfortably. Well, if you have home ownership, all those rights come to you, and you could be paying that same $1,200 or less to buy the place that you're in, if it is eligible for that. Versus just giving that money to somebody else. Well, your taxes provide a benefit too. It says that you can deduct the mortgage interest and the taxes off of that home. Now, we know that recently there was legislation that was approved that capped the taxes. That's the real estate taxes that you pay, and they cap them at $10,000. So for some of us, for some folks who have a larger tax benefit, real estate tax, that is problematic. But for many people who are in that 10,000 and less on your real estate taxes, you can write that off fully on your tax return. And it's typically either the first or second best benefit you have on your taxes. Another thing that Gwen talked about this is personal and corporate business. So many of us are doing some things on the side that we're not really taking advantage of. Let's just say that you have a lawnmower business and you're going around and you're cutting people's lawns, and you're doing those things in order for you to bring in some additional monies. You can write that off. It's called a tax shelter, because many times we're not really taking advantage of the tax benefits of a business. The tax benefits of a business expand beyond your personal benefits. You say, well, how does that work out, Sanders? Let me tell you. So your car, for example, if you drive your car from one place to another place, ordinarily, you would not get a tax benefit for that on your personal tax return. However, if it is for a business, you get to write off driving from your home, which would be your starting point, all right? You get to drive from your home to the location where you are providing a service, and you can write that off. Not only can you write off the mileage, but you could write off if you had to pay tolls. You could write off if you had to you had additional costs in preparing maintenance costs for your car. A bunch of different deductions come just because you put that lawnmower service on your tax return. And in many instances, and I can say this for many of my clients, they find out that, whoa, this helped me because now it reduced my taxable income. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So many of you are doing some things on the side. Maybe you were doing it during the pandemic and you needed a benefit. I want you to know there's a tax benefit there. Then charitable contributions. As you can see, I say up to 50% or more of your income can be deducted on your return. There are different rules for businesses and there are different rules for personal. And Gwen was right. In this year, the government actually allowed you to be able to deduct 100% of your charitable contributions. Now, why is that so important? Well, you know that God says we are to pay our tithes. 10% of your monies should go to the Lord. Well, God has promised us that if you did that, He said, prove me now herewith, said the Lord of hosts, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there should not be room enough to receive. So because you gave that 10%, dollar for dollar, you're able to deduct it off of your tax return. It is, for those who give to the church or give to charitable organizations, one of the biggest benefits you can get from taxes. And so again, just following the principles of God, the ordinances of God will give you some tax benefits that is going to help you with your taxes. And many times I've been able to help people to go from paying to getting a refund just by walking through some of these benefits that they have on their tax return that they never considered. A couple of things that I want to tell you before I move on from taxes is, remember that the front side of your return is what's called the asset side. So that's where you're bringing in your revenue, the revenue you make from W-2 income, the revenue you make from businesses, the revenue you make from retirement. When you take out of your retirement account, all of that or Social Security, all of that comes on the front side of the return. So if you are able to, as I said, take that personal and corporate business that you have and deduct it, if it ends up being a tax shelter where it reduces your taxable income, then you're deducting it on the front side. Us in the tax world say that's one of your best benefits, because that determines the income that is taxable, or your taxable income, also known as adjusted gross income. So the more you can reduce the front side of your return, which is all of the stuff that's before adjusted gross income, the better you'll be. On the back side of the return, everything that's after adjusted gross income, which means we've already figured out what your taxable income is. Now we're trying to lower the amount that you will ultimately have to pay. That is called the liability side. And so we want to reduce that. We want to increase that as much as possible. So that's where your charitable contributions come in. When you itemize your deductions, your mortgage interest, all of those different things are on the liability side. And you want to increase that as much as possible. You want to lower the income side, obviously, as much as possible within the rules, so that you will get the greatest tax benefit. All right, I got to move on. Let's move on to the next slide. And let's talk about being debt-free, okay? Again, the things that God endorses are a blessing to you. And again, you've heard this before. Get your house in order. I said three things that's there, or two things that's there. Who are you paying? How much are you paying? And do you need it? Those are questions you need to ask yourself as you are going through and looking at your house. You know, what expenses are going out? Remember that, simply put, you need to have more income coming in than you got income going out. Simply put, that's the way you should be running your house. If you have more expenses going out than you have income coming in, you are upside down. That's not sustainable. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. And many times, you know that that's not sustainable because you are paying things with your credit cards and you are accumulating debt. We want to be debt free. So it's really important for you to make that a goal. And let me tell you, you can make it happen. All right. So let's talk about how to do that. Pay the highest interest rate amount first. So after you've done that list, you've figured out all of the expenses you have, and you've categorized your debts, you need to pay the highest interest rate amount first. Now, before I get there, let me talk about how you should do that work. All right. So first of all, you want to list all your debts. Start with your credit cards. Your credit cards are typically unsecured debt, and it is debt that typically has the highest interest rate. Also, talk about installment loans. Okay, installment loans are like your car loan, a personal loan. Those are all a part of your debt that you want to look at and figure out, where am I at? Who am I paying? What your interest rate is. After that, you have your secured debt. Okay, that's typically some of your best debt. That could be your car loan, and it's obviously your home loan. Some of the best debt that you can have is the secured debt most of the time. We'll talk about that. So that's the order you want to list those in, right? because those credit cards are typically the ones you want to pay off first. It's the highest interest rate amounts, and you need to make sure that you are paying them off, because guess what? Every time you use that credit card, you are adding debt to yourself, because what they basically say is you spent $100, but guess what? Our interest rate is 23%. So we're going to tack another 23% out of that. That means for that $100, you actually spent $123, and that you have to pay back, right? So you need to make sure that you're paying that off as quickly as possible, because the more debt you have, the more difficult it'll be for you to get debt free. So pay those off. Start with that highest interest rate one. If it's 30%, 20, whatever it is, the highest one, start there, and set a budget for what you are going to do. So you already know what you got to pay. You got your expenses. You will set a budget, and set a budget for paying off your credit cards, or paying your credit cards, right? So let me tell you how that will work. If you've got 5 credit card accounts, and let's say all of them require a minimum balance of $25. So, right, that's $125 a month that has to come out of your finances. If you set a budget of $200, then this is what you do. You pay 4 of those accounts, that $25. That's $100, right? You got $100 left in your budget. Take that 100 and tack it to that worst one, that credit card account that's got the worst interest rate, and that is going to allow you to pay that off quicker, because the more you're able to pay, the quicker that is going to be paid off. And you just keep doing that step by step by step by step, right? And this is going to help you as you're going to become debt free. I'm going to be talking about this in credit in just a minute, but the thing that I need you to understand is that this also applies to delinquent credit, right? Or delinquent debt. Any debt that you've allowed, that you haven't paid it on time, and you've allowed it to get to a collection agency, or you've allowed it to be past due. Those are debts that you are, not only do you have that interest rate, but you've got some penalties that you're paying with that. So we need to make sure that we put that into the mix, because you can come out of this. I will tell you as a witness, you can come out of this and you can have the best life ever. But you've got to take these steps to do that, and that is going to bring you there. So again, pay off that first debt, continue that process until all of your debt is paid off. There are many more things that I can talk to you about, which I will do later on, but this is how you seek to be debt free. Again, we talked about some things on our taxes. You want to bring in more income. So if there are other things that you're doing, if you're upside down and you don't have enough money coming through, you need to make sure that you are figuring out other ways to leverage the things you are doing or the things that others are doing in your household, so you can bring more in to pay those debts. Because you have, again, simple rule, you got to have more money coming in than you got money going out. Right? And that's going to help you to get to debt free. I don't have a lot of time to talk about more, but let's move on to the next slide. And I want to help you as it relates to improving your credit score. And again, all of these things are connected, right? All of these things are connected. So let me talk about this real quick. Everybody makes money off of somebody else's money. Everybody makes money off of somebody else's money. When you go to that job, you are making money off of somebody else's money. If you have your own business, somebody comes in and they are paying for your service or your product, you are making money off of somebody else's money. Everybody does that, right? So that is the reason why it's important for you to have a great credit score, because a great credit score allows you to leverage your ability to use other people's money at the lowest rate possible so that you can benefit from it. All right. This is so important for you, right? So again, you got to baseline your finances. We've gone over that before. Who do you owe? How much do you owe? What is the interest rate and the penalties for the past, for your debt, present debt, and any past due or delinquent debt? So that's the first starting point of improving your credit score. Listen, you can go from a 500 credit score, which is one of the lowest credit scores that you could have. You could go from a 500 credit score to a 700 credit score almost overnight if you follow these steps. I promise you. And it's the steps that I'm giving you in the presentation, because if you go use that debt-free, take advantage of those tax situations, each of these allow you to get more money that's in your household, to keep more of your money, to have more money to pay off things. And as you're about to see, these all relate to your credit score. All of these activities relate to your credit score. So let's talk about what is your, how do you understand your credit report? It's really important. Every one of us has one, whether you look at it or you don't, which I would advise that you look at it at least once a month. You have a credit score, but many of us don't know how to read what that credit score is. You have a credit report that tells you all the activities, and that credit report relates to your credit score, but we don't know how to read that credit score. Well, let me help you out. The credit score is made up of 5 components, and this is not going to be anything unusual. So some things maybe you've heard, some things you haven't heard. The first thing is your payment history. 35% of your credit score is based upon your payment history. So if you pay things on time, you are in a good place. If you don't pay things on time, then obviously you're not. All right. Amount owed versus credit limit is called capacity, right? So it's the amount that you have outstanding on your credit, and then the credit line or credit limit that you have on that same credit. So for example, you got a credit card. The credit card's limit is $10,000. If you have $2,500, you have 25% of your credit limit is in use. And so your capacity overall, let's just say that's the only credit card you have, is you have 75% of your credit available, all right? Now, depending upon your situation, that could be a good thing, depending on your income and how many debts you have and your situation, or that could be a bad thing, right? So capacity is important. And the rule of thumb now is really they want you to have utilize 15% or less of your available credit. 15% or less of your available credit. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Length of credit. The time that you have a credit account matters. So if you pay off a credit card, many times people are like, oh, I want to get rid of it. No, do not get rid of that. Hold on to it. If you know you don't have the wherewithal to be able to not use it, take that card and lock it up in a safe, put it somewhere, but do not get rid of it, because the length of time that you hold credit impacts your credit score by 15%. So the longer you have it, the better it is for you. The less time that you have it, the worse it is for you. So all of that impacts your credit score. The last 2 is your credit mix. So they want to see that you're using credit cards and installment loans. That has an impact on your credit score. So you need a mix of credit, not always required, but it certainly is a part of your score, and that's 10%. And then new credit. So many of you have been like, I don't want new credit cards. Right. Do not just open credit cards just because you have a good credit score and people are offering it to you. You get all kinds of pre-approval notices in the mail. They will tell you that, oh, you need to get this credit card. Remember that every time you open up a credit card or a credit account, you have opened an inquiry. And when you have inquiries, too many inquiries on your credit account, it will have an impact on your credit score. Also, when you open up new credit, the more new credit accounts that you open, the more it will have an impact on your credit score. So this is really important for you to understand. So you need to be the judge and the ruler of the credit in your house. You make the determination as to when that's going to happen, and it should be when it's a benefit to you. All right. So here's some tips that you need to take, and I'm almost done so that we can get it back. But if you want a copy of your credit report, you are entitled to a free copy every year. or every 12 months, let me say, from the 3 credit bureaus, that's TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, you are entitled to it every 12 months. You just go to annualcreditreport.com. That's annualcreditreport.com, and you can request your credit report free of charge every 12 months from each credit bureau. All right. Once you get that, review it, see whether or not the information is valid. Many times you'll find out that that information is that there's some non-valid information that's on your credit report. So challenge that and challenge anything that's old, that's out there, if there is a reason why that shouldn't be on your credit report. So challenge it. You want to do it, you can do it right from their websites. You can challenge it. And you know, I always say stay integral. So we want to be saved, right? Don't say you that's not your debt when you know it's your debt. But there may be some reasons that you can challenge it, because maybe the term is not right. Maybe the credit limit is not right. Maybe the information they have, the payment history is not right. Those are reasons to challenge valid debt, but the information is wrong. And what happens is, if they don't respond to your challenge, it automatically comes off your credit report. Automatically. All right. So important things for you to do. All right. If there's valid debt, go and talk to the creditor. I like to say, if you were bold enough to make the credit, be bold enough to go to them and say, hey, look, I need to get this off my credit report. I know I owe you, but here's what I'm willing to do. All right. And you want to make this work for you. So you say, hey, what's it going to take? And they might say, well, we want you to pay the whole thing. And you say, well, listen, I don't have that kind of money. So here's the offer I'm going to make. I'm going to ask you, if I pay off 60% of that, will you take this off my credit report? And you'd be surprised. Many times they will automatically do that for you, because you are coming to them. And this is what they call unrecoverable debt or bad debt. They've written it off, and to get that money in there is a benefit to them, even if they only get 5 cents on the dollar or 6 cents on the dollar. So they're fine with that. So go and call them. If you're talking to a collection firm, remember that they are an agent for the real creditor. Sometimes they'll talk crazy to you. Just don't do that, right? We're saved. Don't have that conversation. Just say, okay, thank you so much, and call the original creditor. You'd be surprised that they will say, yep, I want that money. And they will overrule the collection company to get you in a better place. All right. And the last thing is, be persistent. All right. Be persistent. Remember, this needs to work for you, but be kind, right? As you're talking to them, you always are seeking a removal. Get this bad credit off of my credit report. I want to get it off. You want to seek that. But remember, you're wanting them to do something for you. So don't make them angry. Don't get into a yelling match. You work with them as much as you possibly can to get that off and to make this work in your favor. I've seen it happen. I have witnessed it happen. You can go from 500 credit score to a 780, 790 credit score within a matter of months, sometimes a couple of years. And you will be living your best life. All right. So 3 things again: make taxes work for you. Let's seek to be debt free. Everybody should seek to be debt free. You can do it. Absolutely, you can. And you can have all of that money working for you. And let's improve our credit score, because remember, everybody makes money off of somebody else's money. You want to make that work for you, and you want to get the best rates so that you can, in the end, be able to live your best life. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Wow. Thank you, Elder Sanders. I don't know about you, but I am feeling more and more empowered to live my best life at home. These presenters were just simply amazing and phenomenal this morning. But listen, don't go away. Stay with us for a little bit more longer. We're going to have a Q&A portion to this event today, and we're going to bring both of our presenters up. Our pastor is going to come up, and some others are going to join us so that we can continue the conversation. So listen, we're going to give you a little station identification break. We got a wonderful song for you to listen to while the panel gathers together, and we're going to come back and share more information. Don't leave us now. We are really on the road to living our best life at home and learning how to really manage our money, getting rid of our debt. Elder Sanders told us which things to pay off first. Considerations. It's really important that we know which way to go. He talked to us about paying off those debts, helping to think things to do to help our credit score. And Gwendolyn talked to us about the 10, 10, 80. 10 for tithes, 10 for savings, 80 to live on. So we've gotten a wealth of information, but we're not done yet. All right. So take a listen to this song to give you a little encouragement today, and we'll be back with our panel in just a few seconds.
And I know you gotta fight for the bad days. You can enjoy the better days. But you gotta be strong, even when you don't feel strong. Say this for your family, for your children. Your money is money. You ain't laughing right now, but no. And I know. And I know. And I know. And I know. And it will get better.
Whoa. Yes, things will get better.
Yes.
That song is It Will Get Better by James Fortune. I encourage you to download that song. It begins with, I know you've been wondering if the sun will ever shine again. And it goes on to talk about some of the things we deal with in life. But as believers, as Christians, we have to always know and always have hope that things will get better. And there's a part that talks about your money may be funny. That's why we like that song. But we have heard today that it will get better. All we have to do is implement the learning and the strategies that we received today, and things will get better.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I'm so excited. Our pastor has joined us, Pastor Shirley Hughes. And let me tell you, she's an awesome preacher, an anointed teacher, but she has serious business acumen. Let me tell you, she knows how to manage her money and how to help us manage our money. And those of us who are members of Inspirational Deliverance Center, we get money talks very frequently. That's because she's concerned about the total man. Our founder, who's gone on to be with the Lord, but the late Elder Charles Melvin Hughes used to talk about the total man. We certainly want to work with the spiritual side, but we understand that people have to live in this world. And
That's
so
right.
they have always been focused on the total man. So I'm going to tell you, Pastor Hughes is very excited about this conference today because she wants the saints to be blessed. So we're happy to welcome our pastor. She'll greet you in just a moment. We are also welcoming Mr. Edgar A. Wright. He is the owner of EAW Wealth and Retirement Planning, LLC. Those of us who've been connected to Mrs. Gwendolyn Kirkland, she's transitioning, she's retiring, and Mr. Wright is coming on and continuing the business. And so he's going to be available. So he's joining us at this time to be a part of our panel.
Yes.
We also have Cherie Ball, who is going to be fielding our questions for us. She was with us last time, and she's back with us again today. And I just want to give a shout out to Nicole Waits. The whole money conference was her idea. And we had some technical difficulties. She was going to be online with us today. But we can give Nicole a hand clap for bringing the idea. She said people need to know about money. They don't know what they're doing with their money. And personally, I agree with that. And so we are here as a result of Nicole's input. Pastor, we're going to ask you to just greet us this time, and then we're going to go right into our questions and answers.
God bless you. Thank you, Missionary Sanders. Oh, my God. I am so blessed and overwhelmed from this presentation. And I thank God, as you just shared, that Sister Nicole Waits mentioned this to you, and then you put it into action. I'm here to say to both our presenters, Gwendolyn Kirkland, who is my investor, but she's retiring, but she's leaving me in good hands.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. And Elder Sanders. He's my son. This is Missionary Sanders' husband. Listen, you have blessed us, and I'm so excited. I could take what you got and teach a lesson for a week. It was such needed information. And I thank God. I know the people have been blessed. That we need this. This is not the end of the world for us.
No.
But we can say this, that this is the first day of the rest of our lives, because we're going to progress.
Yeah.
My theme is, beloved, I would that thou prosper
Yes.
and be in health,
Yes.
even as thy soul prospers. So
Yes.
I'm just so excited. Oh, this is me. Finance is me doing it the right way. And to both of you, Gwendolyn, Elder Sanders, you know, we need more time. So we're having you back. You got to come back. You got to come back. Amen. And we just thank God. Thank you, Missionary Sanders.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Pastor. And we're going to begin with our questions, and we're certainly going to give space in a little bit for Mr. Wright to greet us. Gwendolyn is also has also supported Elder Sanders and me, and so we look forward to transitioning to Mr. Wright as well. Cherie, let's have our first question. Let's get our questions and answers going in. And to our viewing audience, you can feel free to write your questions in the chat on either Facebook or YouTube. If you have my personal information, send me a text, we'll get it in. But we've got a few minutes. We know we don't sit real long in the virtual world, but we're going to do our very best. And hopefully you'll stay with us. So Cherie, let's take away our first question.
Okay, our first question goes to Elder Sanders. It says, all my credit cards have a high interest rate. How can I get a lower interest rate credit card? And where does my credit score need to be?
Great question. So I'm going to give you two answers for that. First of all, the first step is to call that credit card company that you're with right now and ask for that. So typically, many times we don't think that they'll give it to us because of our own beliefs or perceptions. But the first step is to work with people who already know you and talk to them and say, hey, I would need a better credit score. Many times they will do that if they know that you're a great customer. The other thing that you can do if that doesn't work, obviously, is to look out for the best credit scores. Now, they typically are the best interest rates. They typically come from credit unions, again, where it's relational business. They know you. You're going to get a better interest rate from a credit union. You typically have to join the association and you will get that. And then if that's not an option for you, you can look out on the market. The lowest rates are typically around 11.24%. That's the lowest one that I've seen out there. And they typically require really good credit scores of about 750 or more. So it depends on the credit card company, but those are the credit scores that you will need in order to get some of the best credit. But remember, there's one other thing that's out there. And many of them, almost every credit card company is offering 0% for a period of time. Right?
That's right. That's
so
right.
You need to remember that you can take advantage of that if you really look. And some of them have a transfer rate. In other words, when you transfer the debt from one place to another, they will charge you a rate. Calculate all of that to figure out whether or not there's going to be a benefit for you. Ultimately, many times there is, but that's what you want to do. But the other thing is there are some cards that will give you a period where you will not have to have that transfer rate. So when you go to move it, you won't have one. That's the best possible opportunity, and it can give you up to 21 months where you don't have to pay any interest whatsoever to pay off your past debt. Wonderful, wonderful opportunity for you.
Wonderful. Miss Gwendolyn, the next question is for you. Should I get a term loan or a whole life insurance?
Okay. Good
Term
question.
or whole life insurance?
Good question. I would think that it's not an absolute answer because that is a answer that would be specific to the individual. First of all, when we're thinking about life insurance, what are you getting the life insurance for? Are you getting the life insurance for a specific period of time to cover a mortgage, to cover a debt? Or are you saying this is for income, to provide income? And then what does your budget permit? Where are you in your career cycle? What might you have available in your budget when you do an overview and introspection for insurance, to pay for risk management? It could be a consideration that you start with a term policy because that's what you can afford at the time, and you want to put some life insurance in place, but you could have a term policy that's convertible at some point in time into a more permanent policy. Edgar, did you have something to weigh in?
Yes, thank you, Gwendolyn. So yes, you kind of hit the nail on the head. We have to assess the pure objective and intent of a policy to kind of ascertain which way we should be going.
Right.
But each individual should always think in terms of risk management. And insurances are just that. It allows you to mitigate your risks. And if you have things that you need to support, and in the event of untimely death, if you have small kids, you want to make sure that there's something there and there's a plan to continue to be able to support those kids even in your death. And so there's three main policies you want to look at. You do have term life. And again, that can be implemented very easily. For example, if you have a 3-year-old and you want to carry insurance for the next 20 or 25 years until they become adults, and then you have something called permanent or whole life insurance, that's VL, which is variable universal life insurance, which allows for it to accumulate cash value for you. That's an outstanding policy as well. And then you have the universal life policies as well that are what we call whole life. So we have to assess it based off what your need and intents are. And then from there, we can map out the best insurance policies that can be implemented and executed for you.
And thank you all for sharing, both Gwendolyn and Edgar. And we certainly want to remind our audience that they are available for your specific questions because they'll take a look at your specific circumstances and your particular needs and interests. And so you can certainly feel free to follow up with them. I'm going to ask this question, and anyone on the panel can take it. The question is, are there any suggestions about a credit repair company for anyone looking to repair their credit and may not have time to do it themselves?
That's a good question.
Well, I'll speak to that. I don't have any suggestions on that, primarily because they're pretty hit or miss is what I've seen. I'm not saying that there are not good ones out there. There are some good ones out there, but it is very difficult to find. And many times they will charge you the amounts that far exceed, in my opinion, the value of the work that they can do. Because really, while you think you don't have the time to do it, you really, really do. It's really, really simple. And we could walk you through it. And I'm more than willing to help anybody who needs help in that regard to just walk you through the steps of this that you can do on your own. Because again, this kind of goes against the principles, right? If you're paying somebody else to clean up your credit, then you are adding to your debt, all right? And so we want to minimize your debt and improve your credit as much as possible. And so this is something you really can do yourself, and we can help you walk through that.
Mr. Wright, did you want to weigh in at all?
Yeah, I want to agree with Elder Sanders. This is something that I truly believe you just have to walk through the exercise yourself. First and foremost, Elder Sanders did an outstanding job of laying out the fact that you can receive your free credit reports from the 3 major credit bureaus every 12 months. All you need to do is pull those credit reports, view them, inspect them, and those things that are not quite right or erroneously inputted, you need to call back to those companies or write into those credit bureaus and ask that they remove or correct that. That doesn't take a lot of time, effort, and energy. Comparatively speaking, if you were to hire a credit repair or credit restoration organization, back to Elder Sanders' point, you're going to end up having to pay someone for something that you could have actually executed yourself, or at least call Elder Sanders. He's already offered up the help and support. He can help guide you through writing and crafting out those letters and correspondence, and it will greatly improve your credit score. And again, you can execute on this individually, as opposed to going out, hiring a firm to do stuff that, quite frankly, and very honestly, you probably should do for yourself.
Mr. Sanders, let me just say,
Next
so many
question
times
is for Pastor Hughes.
Can you hear me, Mr. Sanders?
Yes, Pastor, go right ahead.
Okay, so many times, I want to say this to all of us. We think we're so busy and don't have the time. Think about saving your life. You have time to save your life. And some of the things that we put emphasis and time on with other things, we cannot do that and pursue this.
Yeah.
So you talk to yourself, and I say this all the time and say, listen, I can set this amount of time aside to work on something for me, for the betterment of me. And some of those other things that we spend time on, you can let that go, because this is going to help you live better, because you're living your best life, not only at home, but as we move forward out of our home. So start saying to you, get some of these facts of how to do it. It's all there. It's even internet, and you've got Elder Sanders that's willing to help. And when he gives you this help, then take the time to implement it. But you'll see, we have time to do various things that sometimes we think we're overwhelmed and don't have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. I told you all, don't mess with Pastor Hughes. Losing money, you're on the right road. Come on, Cherie, with our next question.
Our next question is from Ms. Gwendolyn. Ms. Gwendolyn, what investment vehicle should I consider to generate income?
Okay, good question. And again, that could be a question that would be specific to an individual, because it speaks to your time horizon, the amount of risk that you want to take. For Elder Sanders, what's your tax bracket? So is the income generated going to be sensitive to federal taxes or state taxes? So that's a question that has a lot of different moving parts. Depending, and first of all, I would say you really wouldn't want to think about investments before you at least have a 3 to 6 month reserve fund. And I don't even say emergency, because I don't want to speak that into being, but you want to have some reserve money. So before you invest, you want to have a reserve fund that you have in place. So if something comes up, you can go to that and you don't have to disturb your investments. But I think if I would think about an investment pyramid, you would think considering vehicles to generate income that would be on the lower level, a lower amount of risk. You might think about treasury bills that are issued by the U.S. government, treasury notes, government bonds, certificates of deposit that are federally insured. Then as you go up the ladder, there are other investments, including real estate, that could be a consideration to generate income. So I think there would be as many facets to that question, not one in specific that would be an answer for everyone, and dependent upon, again, your time horizon, your risk tolerance, the dollars that you're going to invest, and what income you're looking at, whether it's taxable or non-taxable at the federal. Edgar, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, Gwendolyn, you hit it spot on. Again, it's going to be a scenario where we have to make sure we have a good full workup of a person's personal profile. And then we can kind of back in based off the income level or the income stream they want to achieve, kind of back up towards trying to help them achieve that objective. But there are a plethora of products out there that generate income. For those that are in what we call tax sensitive bracket, of course, we got federal tax free bonds that are out there that can be utilized. And for those in this environment where we have almost a zero interest rate out there, you might want to look at corporate bonds. That gives a little bit better level of income stream. But again, we have to be sensitive to the fact that in our environment as investors, we have to know our clients and know our clients' full situation. We can then better offer and or recommend the appropriate product to help achieve the income stream or insurance or whatever their needs are.
And one thing I'll add at the end, everyone, in our audience, you will have contact information for how you can contact our presenters beyond the show for those specific questions that you have. So we will make sure that you have their contact information as we close our show. Go on with our next question, Cherie.
Let me say this, Sister Sanders.
Our next question is for Pastor.
And while you
What
know
tools
this
do
one
you use
is
to save
free,
more?
just remember, these are professional people. And when you contact them, I want you to remember that. All right? This is their livelihood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Okay.
All right, Cherie.
Okay, Pastor, this next question is for you. What tools do you use to save more?
To save more? Excuse me. The first thing I do is what Elder Sanders and I think Gwendolyn thing. You cannot save when you owe. Now, people think that I can say this. When you owe bills, when you have a debt, you need to pay the debt first. And then you can, now these presenters can share with you. But as long as you owe, you're not in a position to really save. Pay the debt off and invest in yourself by getting rid of this debt.
That's true.
And so once you get rid of the debt, then you can get one of these financial planners to help you and start something for saving. But you owe $500 and you barely got a little coming in. And what are you going to save? And then what are you going to leave off? Also, what one thing I think I heard Elder Sanders this, and I'm going to be very brief. When we're paying this debt, I want you to be mindful of the interest rate.
That's it.
And many people, and they even do this with credit cards now, because many people did not realize you have a due amount and they give you a minimum payment. And if your bill is $500 and you have interest rate on that, I'm just going to go erroneous with this, $400, $300, what have you, you're not paying $500 on the entire bill. They're going to take the money, interest rate money first. So you need to deduct what that interest is. They'll show you what the interest is, and then you'll know I'm applying X amount to my debt. Because many times you think, oh, I'll pay $450, and you think $450 has gone toward that bill. When you get the next bill, you'll see it didn't. Because much of it went towards the interest, and whatever is left over will go toward that bill. So we need to be certainly mindful of this, and this is something I'm mindful of how investing and moving forward.
Yes, good point. Good point.
If I may add on to that, one of the biggest things that we need to do is take control of our finances.
That's it.
Take control of your finances. And remember, many times we accept things and we just say it has to be that way. That's not the case.
That's right.
And Sister Sanders would allow me, I'm going to share something that we had to do in our home. I won't share the amounts, but we had a problem with the house and we needed to take care of that. But we didn't want to pay a lot of interest rates. So we kept looking and looking and looking till we found what we wanted. We were able to get that thing taken care of, interest-free, no charge whatsoever. And we have 5 years to pay it off. And so we're paying off a huge bill, but every payment goes directly to the principal. There is no interest we have to pay. This works for us. And now we are at year 2, and we are about to pay this thing off by year 3. So that is those are the kind of things where you are in control of your finances. You are saying, this is what I want to pay, and this is what I want to. And I do that same thing when I go to buy a car, right? You go in there, they want you to pay what they want you to pay.
That's right.
I want to pay what I want to pay. So if you say to me, this is what you have to pay, I say, okay, you keep it. I'm gone. I'm going to the next one because I want to pay what I want to pay. You're not going to make me pay what you want me to pay.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I have one other thing to say. I was going to say that I think we have to take a position to get mad, MAD, get mad about your money, mastery, authority, and dominion. You have to take control over it and be in a position where you know what's going out and know what's coming in. And I was thinking we had a recent client meeting and we were looking over the client's budget, and I shared with Edgar, I said, well, I don't understand here, because we saw what the income was, and we saw that there was at least $800 or so left over every month, but it wasn't really a commensurate amount in the savings. And I said, it's got to be a hole in this bucket. What is going on? And then asking the client, they said, the money is in the closet. Like, okay, well, you got to say no to Nordstrom, because you got to just say no to Nordstrom because you're trying to save some money.
Yes.
Oh, no to Nordstrom. Oh, no to Nordstrom. Oh, my goodness. I was there yesterday, but Nordstrom rack.
But they are racking up money. They're racking up money.
Wow.
Come on, Sheree. We got to begin to wind down, but I think we have 1 or 2 more questions that we really need to get on the table. Go ahead, Sheree.
Okay, Mr. Wright, should I set up a will? I'm young and I plan to live long. Should I just wait until I am more established?
Wow, I think that was an outstanding and profound question. Yes, you could set up a will, and you use that will as what I call the foundation to continuously build on for a living trust. So after the will, there should be that power of attorney for health, as well as power of attorney for finances. And then you moved off and with an attorney, start building out your living will and then your trust from there. So no, don't wait. We do not know the day, time, or hour, right?
Amen.
So lay out your legacy plan now and let your wishes be known. Again, Gwendolyn said something that was profoundly accurate. If I think in terms of my mother and their generation, everything's secretive. Mom passed, now I got to go find the policy. I know she's been paying it, but where is it at? She didn't. If it's in the safe deposit box, or if it's on the closet shelf, or it's in a drawer, right? So lay your will out. Please share it with key members. You can't tell your business to everybody, but a few key members need to know where things are and how you place things in play in the event of an untimely death. So to answer your question, yes, do the will and do it today. And follow that up with your power of attorneys. And if you need help, give us a call. We can actually kind of recommend a couple of attorneys that focus on estate planning that can get those things done for you. But I'll reemphasize, if you can take time, as Pastor Hughes has already stated for yourself, you should be able to write out your will, get it notarized for yourself without having to pay expenditures into an attorney. But as you build in power attorney and other documents, you might want legal help in that area. But please do move on that today. We spend an enormous amount of time in probate. And probate is when you start to have to go to court to try to figure out what assets go where. So if you have your will and power attorney and your trust in play, everything move without probate. Now you don't have to go in front of the judge to figure out who should be taking care of your kids and where the monies go, or who's managing kids and who's managing money. So it is very important, very important. So we're on this platform, and as we're on this platform and we have faithful believers, just know the money is laid up. You can pull on Google from 2016, before our modified adjusted gross income as a community, an African-American community, we had income coming in excess of almost 104 trillion, right? That's a lot of monies. And then what we're doing with it is the question, are we translating it into wealth? And that all boils back to that will and setting up your legacy fund. The money is laid up, is there. We got to do the right thing with it. And that it goes back to, yes, set up your will.
Mm-hmm. Listen, this is so good. We've got two more questions we have to ask you. I think this is to Gwendolyn. 401k, 403b. It's confusing. My job offers them every year. What's the benefit what's the difference in the 401k, the 403b, and what's the benefit on your job? Please address this question for us.
Okay, be glad to. Well, the 401k, 403b is just part of the IRS code, and it tells you who your employer is. Typically, a 401k, your employer is some type of corporation. 403b, typically your employer might be a municipality. It could be a school district or a different type of entity. It could be a church that you're employed by. Is it beneficial? Extremely. It gives you an immediate benefit by participating because the monies that you contribute are not reflected in your current income. So it reduces the income that you have to report. Some 403b companies, some 401k company providers that are providing those qualified plans, they have a match. So they say, if you put in $1, we'll put in $1 for you, up to a certain amount. So it's free money that they're giving you. So that you definitely want to participate. The money that you contribute grows tax deferred. You don't pay any taxes on it. And then you pay taxes on it when you take it out at retirement. But it's a way to help you save for retirement. Edgar, do you want to say something?
Yes. And you, again, spot on. The 401ks, think in terms of it normally being an entity for profit, and 403bs are normally nonprofit or governmental entities in some scenarios. So you do want to, as a part of your benefits, always participate in those plans. Going back to the very basics, 10, 10, and 80. Right? Part of your 10% for savings and investing is probably, if you're working and your employer provides a 401k or 403b, most of that should be towards going into your 401k for retirement long-term wise, especially if there's a match. Let's just say your employer match 5% at $1 for $1, and you put in $200. Instantly, you've just made 100% on your monies, because the $200 that you invested not only providing you a tax benefit, but you instantly get 100% on your monies, and now you got $400 before you even invested in anything. Do not go to work and you have a 401k that offers a match and you're not participating in it. Many times people always go, well, my budget is stretched, I can't afford to put it in there. Well, the quote of the decade is that you can afford not to put it in there. That's right. 100% match. So make sure you execute on that Monday. Do not delay. That's one of those things like a will. Do not delay. If you're going to work for the next 20, 25, 30, 40 years, that is going to become part of your nest egg that will help sustain you in retirement. That's and again, it is a part of your work benefits. Please leverage it to the hilt.
Okay.
All right. And Cherie is going to ask our final question for today.
Okay.
So our final question is a two-part question. Please explain the tax freeze, tax exemption, and the best way to apply for homeowners. And the second part of the question is, what is the best way to get refunds if you are entitled to a tax exemption for homeowners?
Okay.
Well, let me talk about that. The tax freeze is basically where they are locking in your real estate taxes for a period of time. And that they have not done that here in Cook County. It depends on the county that you're working in to determine what is happening. So, you know, if you live in Cook or Will or Kane or what have you, it's going to be dependent upon that. A tax exemption typically is related to a status that you have as an individual and allows you to take an exemption. Most people are qualified for what's called a homestead exemption, which is an exemption that lowers your real estate tax rate. In order to typically do that, you have to go to the county assessor's office, and there is a form or a process that they have in order that you have to fill that out and request it. Typically, they require certain points of information that you have to submit in order to get that exemption. And I didn't hear, there's a third part of that question.
That's it.
Oh, was that it?
No, that was it.
All right. So I thought there was a two-part.
No, it was just the two questions.
Okay. So again, as Mrs. Kirkland has said, each individual situation is different. So we really look at what your situation is and what we need to do to help you. If you are a senior citizen, you get another benefit. All right. So if you are a senior citizen, we need to look at yours, because you don't just get the homestead exemption, you get another benefit. So we want to make sure that we are providing you with all the support that you need in order for you to get all the benefits that you are entitled to.
Thank you so much, Elder Sanders, for that response. And I want to just, again, thank our presenters, Gwendolyn Kirkland, and certainly her, the gentleman with whom she's working now and transitioning as she's retiring, Mr. Edgar Wright. Thank you for joining us today. You can put a face with your name. And certainly Elder David Sanders. Let me tell you, he lives and breathes finances, and it's amazing to me. I can watch him count and compute and organize just so quickly mentally. He's really astute when it comes to finance. It's a blessing for all of us. I just want to thank you for joining with us today. Thank you to our viewing audience. I know that we normally will have a number of people who will come back and watch it again later, play it again. Listen, share this information. This was a wealth of information today that you can talk about finances all day long, because there's so many parts of it and so many other items to address. But thank you for tuning in today. You watched it live on Facebook and YouTube. Those individuals who called in, we really appreciate you today. Thank you. Listen, we have the best media team in the world. They were, I don't know if you saw the intro today, but they are amazing. And listen, we just want you to live your best life at home. There's a lot going on, but we are not a people without hope. And no matter what has happened in our lives, whether we've lost our job, been furloughed, had to give some of our money to help the rest of the family, whatever state we have found ourselves to be in, not only can we be content, but we can be creative and think about the things we need to do to make life better as it relates to our finances. So thank you again. We want to invite you to join us next time. Live your best life at home. Part 3 will be Family Matters, and we'll get all of that communicated to you. But we're going to focus on the family for Part 3. So at this time, we're going to transition and turn this over to our pastor, who's going to close us out. And listen, thank you again, everybody. I know you were blessed as I was. I have my notes, things I need to go and do. Get rid of that debt, help your credit score, get your will and your trust set up. Go to work Monday and get your matching 401k plan together. You got a lot of helpful tips. And above all, give your tithes and offering to your church.
That's right.
God will bless you more than you can ever think. And even during a pandemic, I'm a witness. You can get a raise and an increase. God bless you. My pastor.
God bless. Thank you, Sister Sanders. And certainly, give me just a few minutes to share this. You might have to go back to our panels on this, but I want to say I was praying for an individual to be blessed, and the Lord placed in my spirit to share. Tell them the blessing plan that the Lord has. God's blessing plan is paying tithing and offering. Don't let the spirit of another tell you you can't afford to pay your tithes. You cannot afford not to pay your tithes. You may allow a certain amount according to what you do. in paying. But I'm going to tell you, and you're being blessed because he reigns on the just as well as the unjust, but you're not getting the full potential of the blessing that God has for you. So please pay your tithes. I wanted one more thing to say, and that's why I said we would probably take a minute or two, go back to those investors. I know we're closing out and what have you, but there was one particular asset that I did not hear touched on that so many people use, and that's leasing. Leasing a car, leasing this. Listen, I tell you, and I know they're probably like, Pastor, we're done. But leasing is nothing but a rent receipt. And so you think you're doing yourself a favor, and when you finish with the leasing terms, you don't have anything. And so I was going to ask them just to elaborate a bit or a moment about the advantage or disadvantage of leasing rather than purchasing. So I know my time is up, Sister Sanders, but I think that's very, very important, because so many people think, and I kind of know why you do made lease, but I want to tell you, I don't lease. I don't lease products for the church. I don't lease for anything, because in the end, they're nothing but rent receipts. When you finish with that term, you do not own that product, and you spent all that money leasing. Well, I better be quiet.
So let me start.
I was just going to, if anyone want to elaborate on that right quick, and then Sister Sanders, I'm finished. But we need that because so many people get caught up in a leasing agreement.
So let me start it, and then my colleagues can help or address it as well. Pastor has hit the nail on the head already. Leasing typically is not beneficial to you. And you can really kind of tell when it's not beneficial, because what they will always do is they will market or advertise the thing to draw you in, and that's the low payment. So you think that this is a good thing, so that's the hook. They want you to say, "Oh, I'm only going to pay $350 a month on that BMW. Oh my God, that's wonderful." Well, the problem with it is, typically what happens in a lease is you are renting the vehicle, and that vehicle has a residual value. The residual value is basically what the car is worth at a period of time. All right. And so what happens is, when you get to the end of the lease, if you have not taken care of the car well, if you have not done things that you should have done, and even if you have, because I did one lease and I said I will never ever do it again, that residual value is so low, you get absolutely no benefit from that lease. I had put down $10,000 and lost all $10,000. It was gone, because all it did was lower the payment. It did nothing to the residual value. When I got to the end, they were like, "You won't get no money back. Just give us the car back." And so there was no benefit whatsoever to it. The only time leasing is beneficial to you is when you have a business, because
now we're talking.
You can write off the full amount of that lease. So if I pay $600 a month and that car is used fully for the business, I can write off $600 a month, and it's a write-off on your tax returns. But outside of that, there are I don't know of many instances where leasing is beneficial to you. So Brother Wright, Madam Kirkland, if you would like to add on to that.
Yeah, I'll chime in if you don't mind. Please. Elder Sanders and Gwendolyn. And so you're spot on once again. The residual value is the key. And for individuals, you have to watch that number. I actually lease because I use my car for business. And so in that regards, it provides me a decent benefit that I can kind of literally burn the car up over the next 36, 48 months and give it back but yet all of the payments that I had to invest month over month is typically, when I give it to the tax preparer, CPA, is written off as a business expense. So each individual, again, we go back to suitability. We have to figure out where things are for them. And to your point, if you are a LLC or a corporation and there's expanded benefits tax-wise for you, yes, leasing could be a okay option. But generally speaking, if you're not in that scenario, you won't reap as much of a benefit or value from leasing, because at the end of the day, as Pastor Hughes has already stated, you don't get any value back at the end of the lease. And the residual effect for you is going to be less than what you potentially put in. But the last thing I'll say, you kind of mentioned it as well, Elder Sanders, when you're leasing, you probably want to have that real good credit score. So you go in talking about what you want to pay. I have never leased a car and put money down. You know, again, I'm negotiating from leverage point of strong credit history, strong credit score. So when you see the little advertisement where they want $3,500 down, oh no. Now you can send me my monthly bill and I'll go ahead and pay that, but I'm not giving you $3,500 down. Why? The car depreciates in value as soon as you pull it off the lot. That's why I don't give them any monies down. So again, each individual, we have to assess it for you in combination with your tax preparer to determine if it's of value or not. So it's normally not for an individual. And yes, it usually carries some additional values if you're a corporation or entity.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask Mr. Wright, will you share your contact information, the name of the company, and I know our team can scroll it before Pastor closes us out, just so that someone just texted me and said, I want to be able to get in touch with them. How do I do that?
Yes.
So on the screen now, the email address as well as the phone number, and certainly Mr. Wright, you can share about the company as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity. EAW Wealth and Retirement Planning. As you can see on the screen, you can reach me at edgar.wright@saswealth.com. Or of course, you can call the office main line, which is the 708-481-8787. So if you get in touch with me, or if you wanted me to relay a message to Gwendolyn, I can also connect with her as well on individuals' behalf as well if they have questions directly. But generally, I will work as the job.
Thank you. Pastor, we're back in your hands.
And then I'll share it with Gwendolyn if needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pastor, we're back in your hands, Pastor.
God bless you. Thank you once again. Thank all of you for sharing. Thank you. Let me say, Nicole, for bringing this to Missionary Sanders. And thank you, Gwendolyn, Brother Wright, Elder Sanders. God bless you. Thank you, Cherie, for being available for our questions. And Lord, we thank you. Let this be a step forward in all of our lives as we plan to live our best life at home financially. God bless. Thank you.